Hello, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Tomi Mitchell from the Mental Health and Wellness Show. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. MaryAnn Wilbur. She is a former gyne oncologist turned physician advocate, public health strategist, and author. After years of high-stakes clinical practice, she stepped away from surgery to speak out on the growing disillusionment among healthcare professionals and the broken systems that dive it. She is a co-author of the thought-provoking book, The Doctor is No Longer In: Conversations with U.S. Physicians, which explores the real stories behind the physician exodus. Raised in poverty, Dr. Wilbur brings a deeply personal lens to her advocacy, seeing every aspect of healthcare through the perspective of class and the social determinants of health. Her work today centers on amplifying marginalized voices, tackling inequities in the healthcare system, and pushing for systemic reforms that honors both patients and the physicians who serve them. She currently leads initiatives through Health Equity Consulting and the American Institute on Class Transparency, while also teaching and conducting research at the University of Rochester. With no further ado, welcome to the show. I'm laughing because before we even went on mic, we had such a great conversation. And I'm hoping we can bring that same energy.
We are kindred spirits. Dr. Mitchell and I see the world the same way.
Oh, yes. Very sparkly.
It's all rainbows and sunshine, so not to worry.
Exactly. We take off the rose-colored glasses and see the truth, because the truth shall set you free. So if anyone who's listening, driving, maybe with sensitive people, maybe this is a podcast that you can listen to on your own time later on. Because we're going to dive in and we're not going to hold back. And on this show, it's not prescripted. It's not, we go with the flow, okay? Yep. And advocacy is not a soft word. Having public health and strategy together, wow, that's transformative. Social determinants of health, ooh, that's a can of worms, And
especially these days.
Right? Especially these days. And having lived experience, raised in poverty, right? That's a real experience many people are facing, and many more because of, again, social determinants of health, policies, beliefs, ideology, you name it. We're going to talk about it. So, yeah. Okay. Is there anything you'd like
buckle up.
Oh, yeah. Buckle up, buttercup. So, yeah. We have a great conversation. Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners about you so they can really get to know your heart before we have a real conversation?
Maybe a quick, who am I? So my name's MaryAnn, and I am cisgendered, white, hetero, female. I live in the U.S. I was born in the U.S. I was born to a couple of teenage parents. And spent most of my childhood in pretty extreme poverty. And that really shapes the lens through which I see everything. But I was an obnoxiously curious child. And I think I was probably 10 or 12 when I was like, this isn't right. Just looking around thinking, this isn't right. And how does one fix this situation? But I literally... it's funny because I don't think I've ever intentionally wanted to be a troublemaker, but if you're born, if the destiny you were born into is simply unacceptable, you have no choice but to become a troublemaker. Yeah. And my destiny was not going to be cute. So I was going to have to change things. And through the years, I've been called a troublemaker, a disruptor, a change agent, which is my preferred term. There's many, but I think if I'd been born into other circumstances, I would not be a troublemaker. It's just that, if you have no choice, it's either accept the shitty existence you're going to get or
fight,
make something else happen, then I'm going to make something else happen.
I love it because you know what? You're right. You're at a crossroad. You're like, okay, either A, just let fate happen and looking at where you came from ain't going to look so good.
It's not going to look pretty.
It's going to look and be ugly. And then, or fight, right?
Yep.
And I feel you. I'm a professional troublemaker. My parents did not I was not born with a silver platter. Yeah. We grew up poor. I remember hearing we don't have enough money. It's a struggle. Line of credit, debt, all these things. A little girl, ideally, you think shouldn't have to hear, but I heard those things. Yeah. It's like Oh, there's no more money. Oh, manage. Oh, go have bread. Go have cereal. Go fend for yourself.
Yep.
Those are literally the things I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as a child who, we're all born into this world, how some people are born into luxury, others are not. Some are born into a very loving family, some are not. But we have the basic expectation, birthright to be loved, protected, and, all those things. But it doesn't always pan out for a lot of people. And let's keep it real. And it's the majority of people on this earth, actually. It's the majority of people are born in poverty. Because the majority of people are not even check to check. There's no check coming in, right? They're struggling. And that really impacts an individual. We talked we mentioned the social determinants of health either before we hit record or maybe at the beginning. But maybe for those of you who are listening who are like, what are you talking about? Well, I think it's worthwhile. We'll kind of go through what they are, right? Just to kind of give that history lesson, because I know me and you, we're both nerds. We're like history nerds. We look at things, we look at these principles that we're taught and be like, okay, if this is what we're taught, then how come in real life that isn't happening? if they're saying
there's a disconnect very often.
One of these things is not like...
Oh my God, I just sang that song yesterday.
One of these things is the same. Sharing is caring. Care Bears countdown. Like, what?
I mean, of course, I was raised Christian, because here I am in the U.S. And so I'm being raised in this like quote unquote Christian community. I'm like, we're being taught that we're our brother's keeper. That doesn't seem to be happening. And we're being taught that in order to care for our community, we need to value education and health and wellness. That's not happening. You start to, at a very young age, I was like, there's some kind of major disconnect. And it really, if you're one of the others, and it's funny because somebody who's happens to be watching this, you can say, she doesn't look like an other. I look very much like the part. And I will play the basic white girl when it suits me. But I don't think like a basic white girl. And I was probably 10 or 12 when I was like, okay, so I see. So the people who are making the decisions have not had these experiences. Their lived experience has told them something else. And it helped me at a very young age be like, all right, I'm not going to hate the decision makers. I'm going to accept, though, that their variation of lived experience is different than mine and has informed them in a different way. And they're making decisions that I believe are wrong. Oh, dear. I'm going to have to be a troublemaker. Well,
it is
okay. And I started telling my guidance counselor, that I was going to become a doctor. And she was like, oh, sweetie, no, nobody from this community has ever become a doctor. I was like, well, there's going to have to be at first.
Right.
And you start troublemaking early, but it comes from a place of, I try so hard not to hate. I try and just help people make decisions based on their lived experience. Their lived experience is different than mine.
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of encourage people, especially those who live in a bubble, because there are people who literally have run for presidency and never had a passport. I won't mention names. But, it's like the world is global. It's in our face. We have to try to think outside of our little bubbles. The way, I've never experienced this ism. It must not be real because I've never
experienced it. Of course you didn't experience it. That was not your lived experience. Congratulations, by the way.
Right?
If you think human hierarchies don't exist, you are at the top. Congratulations.
Exactly. And those people, bless their hearts. They just special. But anyway, just a little recap. So those things that matter, as in that impact who we are, our life expectancy, our opportunities, 5 key areas: economic stability. That's like employment, job security, food security, housing, resources, right? So someone who's working minimum wage, it doesn't have the same, may not be able to afford basic rent, medications, good luck. Your doctor, good luck.
We can stop at rent. I these days in the US,
Right, exactly.
like, minimum wage doesn't pay rent, or I mean, where?
What is federal minimum wage? $7 or something? I don't even know.
No, it's actually closer to 15 now.
Oh,
But
15 now.
still, let's think about rent. If you needed like
That
a
don't do
one or
jack.
two bedroom apartment, if you
Girl.
do 15 times 40,
No.
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 Nope, that's not going to pay
Definitely not
rent.
it.
You can stop there. Forget food, medicine,
don't need food.
clothes, any of those other things. We can stop at rent. Math doesn't get you there.
Definitely not. I remember once looking for an apartment in, I think it was in Newark, like in
Yeah.
New Jersey, and like
Super fancy place.
Oh yeah, a really hole in the wall was like, frick.
Yeah, more than $600. So no, minimum
Like
wage is not going to
living
cover
under basically a stairwell room is. I didn't rent it, but I was like, holy crap.
that. Yeah.
I went downtown Newark instead.
Yep.
Wait, so next thing is education. We're talking about before we, hit record how early childhood education, like a good preschool, right?
That's craziness.
Really?
When I was a kid, my parents said preschool's for rich kids. That's for rich families. No,
Right? Literacy and language skills. They say the average
who
American
needs it?
reads like fifth grade level or something, literacy.
6. Yep.
High school graduation rates. I remember when I was living in Georgia, volunteering at this church, and we used to do, work with students to try to raise the graduation rates because the rates were kind of poor, to say the least. Health literacy. Reading them labels and understanding that the first ingredient is sugar or high dextrose syrup is really important. Like,
And even if you were gonna read those, like, let's be honest, it is expensive to go into the market and buy the healthy foods. Come on now, fresh produce.
Seriously, everything is
Who
expensive.
can afford fresh produce? Like, that's expensive.
And those complaining about
You want yogurt? You want yogurt that doesn't have like chemicals in it? Oh, that's like $20 if you just wanted a salad.
What about you want some eggs? How about that?
Oh, forget so this is how people end up eating, high dextrose corn syrup.
Right?
So, and there's that bit of history about how we've subsidized the, agriculture and in distorted ways. And so how we've ended up with these situations. And then we could talk about food deserts, how, I have a wonderful grocery store right down the street from my house where I can walk because I have a walkable environment. And, I am living a very comfortable lifestyle, but that's not true everywhere in America. And among our peers, among physicians, there's this idea that if somebody is obese, that they are having an excess of food. I was like, no. Obesity in America is essentially, you're looking at malnutrition. That's what malnutrition is looking like.
Yes, that's a good way of looking at it. Our obesity is there. Yeah.
It's malnutrition. The body is not being fueled properly because usually it's because that individual cannot afford to fuel it properly because it's extremely expensive.
Yes.
So that body is being fueled with high dextrose corn syrup, which is just empty calories. So the body keeps asking for more. It's like, no, fuel me, please.
And not only that, the body doesn't even know how to even digest some of this crap we put in it. It's like, what the hell is this?
It's not food.
What is this? So it just insulin spike, whatever.
Yeah, that's not. I try to tell my boys, I'm like, that's not even food.
It's like trying to put diesel gas in a car that runs on regular.
No, not surprisingly, the body's like, I'm still hungry. Because you didn't fuel me. So what I remind our physicians who thinking about the social determinants of health and do like public health work, I remind them, I'm like, if you're looking at obesity, you're looking at malnutrition.
Yeah, I like that angle.
Yeah.
So healthcare access, that. Neighborhood, like where your zip code, your postal code.
Ooh, that's number one predictor of your life expectancy.
Like if you live in 90210 or other postal codes, things may be good for you, or you live in where I was.
And you could be expected to live into the 90s,
late
80s, early 90s. But if
You
you
live in Flint,
live just a
Michigan.
few zip codes, or the ones that get me really, really, there are multiple places throughout the US. And this is common because often the wealthiest suburbs are just outside major cities. And so there
100%.
are zip codes that abut. And just because of where I have lived for training, I have lived in these areas. Baltimore is one of them, right?
Mm.
And so Towson, Maryland is an extraordinarily wealthy, like, horses and, beautiful, beautiful, like excessive wealth is right next to downtown Baltimore. I'm talking about kind of part of Baltimore where the police don't go.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Oh, yeah.
not hyperbole. They don't go there. They don't, not only do they not patrol, like if you call, they won't come. These two zip codes abut each other. And the life expectancy is almost 40 years. Years between these two zip codes, and they are neighbors. And it's all about money. Who has money, who doesn't? Money is the number one predictor of life expectancy.
100%. Money matters, Said neighborhood.
And this is not me just talking my craziness. If our current administration hasn't taken it down yet, NHANES, NHANES, that study was done over 20 years ago now, and look it up. It spells all of this out, and that my favorite documentary still, except for the one that I'm making, of course. My favorite documentary to date is called Unnatural Causes. If you haven't seen it, you can now watch it on Vimeo for like $4 or something. It is fantastic and lays all of this out. So this is not me just spewing my liberal nonsense. This is all based on really, really
100%. There's evidence. It's been around for like decades. And then social and community contexts, networks, racism, family structure, incarceration here, history. It's, like one poor choice could impact someone for the rest of their lives, right? Like so many things. So all of these factors.
Human hierarchies and money. Those two things will pretty much dictate how it goes, how it's experienced, and abundance.
And honestly, human hierarchies and money, but also if you have one skin tone versus another, then that will push you up, right?
Yeah. Sometimes money can equalize some of
but
these.
then it's like,
all things being equal.
Yes.
Human hierarchies will themselves.
100%. And those are taught from childhood. Like you don't see the child be like, okay, this is how life works. They just see examples. They just see how
little brains just like take this stuff in.
They're taking notes.
We were talking about this before the camera went on, but I'm raising two boys right now. They're 7 and 9, and they're at that. There's so we don't have to go through the whole like developmental stages that you learn in pediatrics and stuff. But to say 7 and 9-year-olds are in that concrete phase. Where they taking in information is what it is, unfiltered, goes right into the squishy part of the brain that is going to really stay with them. And I couldn't believe it. My 9-year-old did a poor job on one of his reading quizzes. I said, go get the book from the school library, bring it back. We're going to read it together because I'm pretty sure you did a poor job because you didn't read it well enough. You tried to go too fast. We're going to do it together, and you're going to retake that quiz. And he came home. And I said, where's the book? And he said, well, it's behind the curtain now. I was like, what do you mean it's behind the curtain? Well, that's where the banned books go. Okay. So this book was okay a week ago, but now it's not okay. It's up for review. It's gone behind the curtain, by the way. I've not seen any books coming back from behind the curtain.
Seriously. Yeah.
But what was even more concerning than, is it surprising to me that books are being banned in the US right now? No, it's actually not. We're living in some crazy times, and it's going to get crazier. But what was very concerning to me is that my 9-year-old didn't think, it's weird, Mom. They put it behind the curtain. He just was like, behind the curtain now. No filter, because his little concrete brain doesn't know, that's weird. It's not saying enlightened societies don't ban books. He's just accepting this as normal. I was like, okay, whoa, you need to not accept that as normal. And this is what's really, really is that when we're children, we take these things in at face value. This is how bias is learned. This is how book banning is primarily an acceptable behavior, can be learned. You can be brainwashed because he's just 9. And his little brain is not questioning what he's seeing around him.
Exactly.
And this is how it happens.
And, those early experiences really shape one's view of the world. And a lot of, let's face it, they say like we spend the rest of our lives acting out our neural self, that first, 9, 10 years of life, good, bad, and the ugly, right? And there's no such thing as neutral, really, because neutral in these days is...
Well, we're animals. We are emotional creatures. Yes, we have a prefrontal cortex, but we don't do a lot. We know this. We don't do a lot of our decision making with our prefrontal cortex. We do most of our decision making, with what I call the squishy part of the brain, is like, taking in these quote unquote facts that we took in our early lives, just like my son just took that in at face value and accepted it. And unless I do a very serious job in the next few months to years, that will be his accepted reality. Like, yeah, book banning is just okay.
And it's
no, it's not okay.
Yeah, no, it's not okay.
It is not okay. No, no, racism is not okay. No, homophobia is not okay.
Okay, I totally, in healthcare, like we're both healthcare professionals and definitely advocating for what is right, because there is right and wrong. We often talk about class and transparency. And like we were saying before the cameras started, this healthcare system wasn't built right.
No.
To start off with. So let's pretend this the dumpster fire it is. It is a dumpster fire, and it's all crashing to...
People ask all the time, they're like, oh, are you going to go back? I'm like, no. Why? Am I going to run back to the flaming dumpster fire? No, I'm not. Going back to the system that chewed me up and spit me out and doesn't care about me or my patients.
It doesn't.
No, I'm not going back to that. I'm working very, very hard. I'm going broke doing it, and I don't care. But I'm very, very hard to build something different, because this is not okay. And anybody who thinks that it is needs to wake up. Because apparently somewhere during the squishy part of the brain development, their experience was, I'll be okay. My experience has been the decision makers lived in a relative affluence, and what they looked around and learned was, yeah, the world's not really fair. Luckily, I'll be okay.
Someone will to bail me out. Somebody will.
Well, guess what? The system's going to fail you too.
Oh, hell yeah.
This system is going down, dumpster fire, train wreck, whatever you want to call it, and nobody is going to completely be free of it. Yes, the suffering will be inequitably distributed, because it always is. Yeah, but it's going to affect everybody. This is bad, and I think it's really important to talk about. Quick plug. I did write my book, and I do, like, sincerely, I'm proud of my book. In chapter 2, for the nerds who want to understand how in the hell did we quote unquote design our healthcare system in the US, go to chapter 2. It's a quick distillation of like my first public health degree. And it gives you like the background of like, how did we build this? But basically, this is how it happened. It was an accident of history from our last major quote unquote war, because I think Korea and Vietnam was a conflict, Korea, but the last major, during World War II, the US was in a situation where the males all went to war. Most of the women were staying home. They were working in the factories. At the time, there was a major concern about the cost of medical care. So medicine, things were coming up. There was like radiography was coming up. Some people are like, x-rays are a thing. This is exciting. I would like to have access to that. That's really expensive, and only rich people can have access to that. Anesthetic, surgery. And so it was like, I'm going to want, the common person hadn't had access to high quality healthcare before then. Before like the turn of the century, it didn't matter too much. And then, around the 1920s, it did start to matter, and only the wealthy could have access. And he tried to access medicine and then wasn't wealthy, they went bankrupt. And so this was starting to like really concern mothers. There's vaccines, antibiotics, there are things that I want my kids to have access to that I can't afford, the common person cannot afford. And the men are off to war, I'm in a factory, and I'm doing my thing. And so this is kind of like ruminating as a fear in the background. If my kids, need antibiotics, I want to be able to access them. And then the Rosie the Riveter is like going from factory to factory because she's being pulled for a little extra money here and there. And the federal government was like, this is bad. You guys need to like make planes and ships and stuff. So stop pulling Rosies from one factory to another. Salary cap. So then the factories, of course, they're not going to listen. They want the most talented people in their factory. So they're trying to recruit, but they can't recruit with increased salary. So what can they offer as a benefit that would attract particularly incomes? Health insurance. So Blue Cross Blue Shield was the first one. They market health insurance, except nobody had done this. Nobody had ever done like employer-based health insurance. That's weird. Just for all Americans who might be listening, that's weird. Nobody else in the whole world does it. It's just weird. So employee-based health insurance is how they present it. It was like, we'll attach it to your work. And the Rosie was like, okay, yeah, because I want my kids to have vaccines and antibiotics, and if he needs his tonsils out, he's going to have anesthesia and like whatever. Cool. I get the same salary and I get this, which is something I've been scared about. Sure, of course they're going to sign up, right? But then when they designed health insurance, here's the fatal flaw. They designed it the way they design all other insurance. So like I'm so embarrassed to say, I actually live in Florida. I live on a little sandbar island, and we are prone to, for now, I'm going to say.
St. Pete?
No. I'm on a little island called Sanibel. It's actually a beautiful island. Yeah. But my politics are obviously different than most of the state.
No, not at all.
I'm a minority down here politically. So, but flood insurance, right? And so flood insurance kind of sort of makes sense, right? And so, everybody we put money into a pot. The person who loses their house to a flood, in theory, gets the money back to rebuild their house. Okay, fine. That makes sense. Because what are the chances that everybody who's put into the pot is like their house washes away at the same exact time? Not good, right? So it's like, this is business gambling, really. But that's how insurance works. But if they step quote unquote health insurance, which is actually, if you think about it, sickness insurance, because it's if you get sick, you will get what you need. So we'll call it sickness insurance. So there's the Blue Cross Blue Shield offering sickness insurance, but they set it up the exact same way. If you need, well, let's think about this. What are the chances that every human body will become sick? 100%. We're mortal.
Yeah.
So the system is literally fatally flawed. It was built with this flaw in it from the very, very beginning. You could stop there. I mean, we do kinds of things to make it complicated, the way that we reimburse and the way that and then there's lots of opportunity for greed, and we can go on and on about the details of how that happened. But baseline, it was built during war, and it was built with a fatal flaw.
Well, that's what kind of happens when things are like built quickly under intense pressure.
Yeah, not designed.
Not saying the rollout not be so great, and the did not look at the finer details and the long-term implications. But it came from a good place, but it was fatally flawed, and that's what we're rolling with. And it's not working on so many levels.
No, because we've tried to. Basically, the system has obvious holes in it, right?
Yeah.
And so we've been trying to like patch it, but every time you patch it, you actually increase the cost of it, and so it has and inflated that we can't do that anymore. We're approaching 20% of the U.S. GDP for shitty outcomes, like the worst of all developed nations.
Yeah.
We have reached a tipping point where we literally can't afford it. And this is not like the hippie doctor. I've been saying this for 20 years. Like, yes, we're spending a ton of money and we're not taking care of people. But like, I'm now, this is the not hippie person saying 20% is a lot of money. We can't flush this money down the toilet. We're going to need that because our administration is like poking bears, and we're going to need it for the Department of Defense and a lot of other things. We can't flush this money down the toilet anymore. It weakens our country.
100%. It's like renovations. You can only renovate a house so much. Then it's like, when's this going to get tear down? Well, you try to fix like, it's just a tear down. Just throw money at the wall. It's a gut. It's a total
Yeah. So sadly, I actually think that our country, the U.S., is not just the health system, because of course, this is not happening in a vacuum. This is happening in greater context.
It's a reflection of what's happening in society. It's a microcosm.
Right. And so a lot of things are going to get worse before they get better. And when has a major come to Jesus moment, we're going to have to rebuild a lot of things, and our healthcare system is going to be one of them.
100%.
The most hopeful part of me holds on to, I would really like to be a part of that, because it will be a beautiful opportunity for us to redesign and create something meaningful so that our grandchildren are not in this situation.
100%. And you know what? While we hope and pray for that to happen, I think what we also need to remember is we need to grow the most important resource we have, and that's our humans that we're entrusted to. Like you said, your sons, right? Growing them so they have the right mindset to embrace this foreign concept of every life matters.
Every life matters.
Sharing is caring.
Healthcare is a right.
Healthcare is a human right. Exactly. It's not
all lives are created equal.
All lives are created equal. Exactly. You know,
we are all, I will say, my kids, and it's not just, I do believe in a higher power because I my kids are teaching me. My 7-year-old, my 9-year-old was like sort of kind of play fighting with one of his 9-year-old friends. But then you know how little boys do, like they were roughhousing, and then all of a sudden it switched over, and I was like, oh, that went ugly for a second. And so my 7-year-old goes in the room. He is, boys, you need to stop. Now I thought he would do something trite like, two rights don't make a wrong. Remember the golden rule. Like we are learning all of those. He didn't go to the like just concrete understanding. He goes, listen, we are all interconnected. Ooh. Every human is interconnected. So you can't heal your hurt by hurting someone else. And I was like, whoa.
I love it.
That is some Dalai Lama stuff.
Yeah.
I was impressed. But that level of understanding is what it's going to take.
100%.
And even during this like time of what I consider to be, the early days of fascism in the United States, I'm going to work really hard to, no hate and not even hating haters, because we cannot heal with hate.
100%. 100%.
Heal hate with love.
Disease. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Your book, The Doctor is No Longer In, it's a sad reality that there is a hemorrhage, a like exodus of physicians who many of us, started this practice when in the good old days, quote unquote, compared to now, where there was agreement on both sides about basic rights, and it was like, let's make this grow, let's go forward. And now it's terrible. Like you said, this career often eats its young, and I've been there. I've been a bit where I almost will quit medicine. I was like, F this shit. Like I'm like,
I got to the point where I was like, I can't.
Yeah, no,
I can't laugh in the mirror because I'm caught. I went because I want to care for patients, and I want it for people. I want to care for my fellow humans.
Yes.
And I think that's truly why most physicians get into it.
Yes.
But in the US, you find yourself between that and then you have to serve the administration, the institution you're working for, and whoever's paying them. And those individuals don't have any responsibility to the patient. So the physician is caught in between these two needs, the need to do the right thing and the need to keep this person happy because this person pays my paycheck. And it got so ugly as a relatively young female surgeon where I was put in situations where it's like, you will do it or you will go bankrupt. And I was like, I grew up poor.
Exactly. And that's why they phase you. But
I was like, I spent my entire life poor. I've only had a good paycheck for the last couple of years. So
exactly. I mean, you know what? A lot of physicians didn't grow up poor.
No, and it's scary.
That's the other
fear of what we don't understand is scary, and it is. It's really dry. I am broke. Like they went broke because I had to leave, and I don't make a surgeon salary anymore. And yes, my dryer just broke, and you know what? My laundry's hanging up right outside that window. It's okay. I'm comfortable with that. But that's not for most people who went into medicine in the United States, and that's a really scary thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's like getting them to.
And I get it. That's where it's about like the lived experience.
Yes. For those of you that's listening that haven't had that lived experience, perhaps, you had like generational wealth and it just came, try to put yourself in a different lens. Even if just because you haven't lived it doesn't mean it's not real. And like you said, MaryAnn, eventually those realities are going to come crashing in front of the doorsteps of those who live the plush, fabulous life. Maybe not to the same extent to somebody
Yeah.
who's struggling to put a roof over their head. Well, not to the same extent, but they're going to feel it too. So it's important that we all wake up, because those of us who've never experienced hardship and then go into a career that touches on their sense of value and morals and they struggle through it, like, I get it, but it's different if you've never lived it. It's
Well, I've also, like, forgive interruption.
Go ahead, please.
So in doing this, so the book, The Doctor is No Longer In, it came out of, I wanted to tell my story, but without just telling my story, because one, that's going to welcome a lawsuit, and two, it's just my story.
Yes.
Right. So what I started doing was, my co-author and I, we started interviewing colleagues all over the country about why they were leaving, and taking those stories and then putting them in themes, creating chapters, and then putting the words right back in, so that the stories are all authentic, which means I ended up interviewing a lot of our colleagues, and there is an overrepresentation of otherness. Like, the doctors who are leaving are more likely to be Black, brown, gay, immigrants, families, first generation. So all of that. I did talk to people who come from relative affluence, and I want anyone, because even if you come from affluence, that's not to say there's not been hardships. There are hardships in all ways of life, and I, in some ways, I felt blessed. A lot of my colleagues who come from relative affluence, where money was like, not necessarily one of their biggest stressors in life, but they come from generations of physicians. And so walking away from being a physician means interrupting a family legacy. And that's a whole lot of pressure that I don't understand, because that's not been my case. Or having to deal with a lot of socio-cultural pressures about remaining a physician. My family doesn't even understand, like, they still think I deliver babies. They don't. So I haven't delivered a baby in 10 years, because I stopped obstetrics and became a GYN oncologist. And, but because my family didn't really understand, it matter necessarily if I walked away.
Their identity of they had to be.
And that was so. So when I talked to my peers, the ones who were able to find a way out and thrive one way or the other, whether it was like find a context where they could provide care that felt right to them, or left direct patient care. And the ones who really got stuck in what we call the 3Ds: drinking, depression, and divorce, and then, suicidal ideation. The difference between these individuals is, this individual was able to separate their humanity from their professional identity, because there's a phenomenon known as enmeshment. When you think that all you are is Dr. Smith, and Dr. Smith can't be Dr. Smith anymore, then you are really, really in trouble, and you have this, like, existential crisis. Versus the person who is like, okay, being Dr. Wilbur is a very important part of how I self-identify, but that is not all I am.
Yes.
And you can find, and that is actually a little bit easier for me, because I did not come from a family of doctors, because I was not afraid of taking off the golden handcuffs. I mean, yeah, I was afraid. Everybody's afraid, to not be able to pay the bills. But I was on that risk, because it's not an unknown to me. I know how to be poor. And so I want to give that, to our colleagues, as I get it. The golden handcuffs.
Yeah, I call it the ball and chain.
Yeah, there's different. Yeah, we heard golden handcuffs a lot, and so we ended up using the term hold, because that resonated with a lot of our colleagues. But golden handcuffs, and how tight they have to get, is different for different people, because we're risk averse based on our lived experience, and that's it's a reality.
Yeah, that's very true. I like that analogy. The golden handcuffs. Ooh, they're gold. They're nice. So pretty.
Yeah. Well, there's let's be honest, like prestige. There's a lot that comes with being a physician.
Oh, you're a doctor? Oh, you're a specialist. You're a plastic surgeon? Oh.
Yeah, and you're like, and I hate my job, and I hate my life, and I can't do what's right for my patients, and I feel awful about it every day. And then I met a lot of doctors who were in that situation, but were married, and their spouse was the caregiver at home, and so they're the sole breadwinner, and the only physician in the house. And so this more with males, but not exclusively, where, so he's bringing in maybe a surgeon's salary. She's taking great care of the kids, and this works, but he's miserable. And she doesn't understand it because that's not her lived experience. And so she's like, just, if you were to stop operating, that would significantly impact our financial, the life we've built, the everything. And so he's not getting the support he needs to find his humanity separate from. And so that one was a real, that can be really hard when you're not getting the sort of the emotional support you need at home to make some tough decisions. And again, there's nobody here, and this is a villain. This is just how our lived experiences build the decisions that we make.
100%. No, that's so true. I can definitely relate to many of those stories. And though you might feel villainized, standing up for yourself and you're, dealing with the moral injury from the external factors or those close to home, but at the end of the day, we have to protect ourselves and do what's right with our moral beliefs, our vision of our life. We're more than just MDs. We're more, or DO, whatever designation you have. We're humans, and hopefully filled with empathy and love and kindness and a backbone and the willingness to be a little shit disturber. Right.
Yeah, a backbone too. That's another interesting.
Right. Go set up balls. Balls are very strong balls.
Lady balls, yes. I'm starting calling them gonads.
Oh, gonads.
We all have them. We all have them.
We all have gonads. Yeah.
Yes. I got a pair of gonads, and I am not afraid to use them.
Girl.
You know what? Especially as I'm getting older. Now I'm in my mid 40s, and I am owning this change agent title. I am not afraid to be a positive disruptor, a creative disruptor, a troublemaker, because you know what? Shit is fucked up.
Yes.
It is not okay.
It is not okay
for a human to come to me and ask for help and me to have to serve the almighty dollar before that human. That's not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to live that reality.
How about it's not okay. I'm thinking of fellow OBGYNs who are like literally have a woman who's miscarrying, ectopic pregnancy, she's dying, and nothing they can do for her.
Yep. I had patients with cervical cancer that was the size of like a pea. We cut this out and be done, but that patient's not insured. That patient can't have that procedure. But then when the cancer metastasizes in a couple of years, you're all of a sudden there's money available so that you can give her, you want me to order her palliative chemo? Fuck you. I'm not doing it. You wouldn't pay me to cut the cancer out, but you will pay me to give her palliative chemo, which is not going to save her life. Are you going to come talk to her kids and explain this situation? So then I would end up doing things and get into all kinds of trouble because they're like, we're not getting that procedure you just did. And I was like, I don't give a shit. I just saved somebody's life. Oh, and I'm really sorry. And because what they were even more mad about than the fact that I did a fee procedure, because like, that was kind of like on me. They're not getting the money for the chemo in a few years.
That's sick, man.
Sick. I am not playing this game.
No.
And it goes on and on, in terms of, you want me the wrong procedure because because we can bill more. Not doing it. You want me to? Yeah, I'm just like it. Nope. Not doing it.
Exactly.
And they were like, "Oh, you'll do it." And there was a lot of bullying because I was female, and there was a lot of like, "You'll get in line. You'll get in line." I was like, "I will not," and I wouldn't get in line. And after a few years, they were like, all right, then what happens to physicians next when they won't get in line is you start getting labeled as a quote unquote disruptive physician, which is not a random term.
Oh no, it's called professional lynching. That's what happens.
Professional lynching. You're familiar with this.
Yes.
So I have been labeled as a disruptive physician. So, so the commission years ago, appropriately, I'm sure, because I don't think there's a lot of villains, it said, you know what, the surgeon who like throws things and yells and stuff, that's not okay. Okay, we can all
Fair
agree
enough.
that's not okay.
Yep.
And it's bad for patient safety, and our thing is
Yep.
patient safety. So we are going to write this policy that gives institutions the power when a person misbehaves, let's say a surgeon is misbehaving, you can call them a disruptive physician, and then these are the things that you are allowed as an
Yep.
institution to take against this disruptive physician. And it includes reporting to the board and file, and you say all these things. Once I wouldn't do what I was told, well, then I'm a disruptive physician, because this policy is very clear about what you can do to the disruptive physician. What it's not clear on is how one defines disruptive. So when I wouldn't toe the line, meaning the money, then I'm disruptive. And when you're disruptive, they started a file on me. I actually never got to the point of being reported to a board or anything, but I was like, I see writing on the wall.
Oh, it's professional lynching. That's what they
But what they did as a surgeon is create the scorecard. And they're like, well, your old times are longer, your blood loss is longer, your infection rate is longer. And I was like, I know, because when I do a debulking for ovarian cancer, I do it like I mean it, because that is the standard of care. I'm not doing this bullshit. We know if I do no gross residual, patient lives longer.
Amen. Their family's happy, everyone's happy, but they don't care about that. Okay, it's
nowhere on the scorecard was overall survival.
Yep.
And so they use these kinds of things to put the troublemakers in our place. And I saw what it does to our colleagues.
It destroys you. It wakes you
destroys careers.
You want to die.
It's awful. And then if they can't separate their humanity from their doctor role, then that's where I started to see suicidal ideation.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I totally relate. I understand. And, at the end of the day, all we have is your conscience. At the end of the day, I was looking out for the safety and well-being of my patients. I was living up to my oath that I swore as a physician. And this is what bothers me. Why is it that non-licensed people are practicing medicine? Why are
they have no responsibility to the patient.
Exactly. Non-licensed people are practicing medicine, but putting the liability into the hands of the physicians who has those, as you say, golden handcuffs on. That's messed up. And the way they'll dissect you, put you in boxes and label you, which affects your ability to do other things down the road, your hiring potential, your family's future, everything like that. It's scary. So it's no wonder many stay and are miserable. But of no bigger surprise, like you mentioned in your book, people who more likely to leave were either brown, black, disabilities, immigrants, etc. Because guess what?
Oh, and 2 to 1 female. And 2 to 1 female.
Oh, of course. Same thing in Canada too. It's the same thing. It's though Canadians feel like, we're a very open country. We are, more than some, but still a long way to go. But it's a real issue. This is gaslighting in medicine. This is abuse in medicine. This is why reform is needed, and people with a backbone and a huge pair of gonads need to be able to be like, no, we're not taking this. We're needed. Physicians, health providers, we are needed. If we all were to go to home and not go to work, the world around us will crumble.
Yeah.
It really would. But we have to have together. We have to support each other. We have to speak for the truth and stop saying, oh, it's just the way it is. Poor me.
Doctors, I interviewed, the book is by doctors. I interviewed doctors, and mostly it was for doctors. And so the doctors no longer in, please, if you're a doctor, take it, it will resonate. But the documentary that is spurred from it is really about getting the voice of all stakeholders and targeting a generalized audience. And it's very focused on the U.S. healthcare system. And that's called Suck It Up, Buttercup.
Oh, I love that title.
So if you go to www.suckitupbuttercupfilm.com, you will find the teaser, because we're halfway through this documentary. And I interviewed this doctor in Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago. And he's like, doctors are lemmings. And I was like, oh my God, we are. Because we're good kids, right? Good students. We want to do the right things. And so there's a certain person who self-selects into becoming a physician. And it generally, it's the troublemakers. The rabble rousers don't usually head to medical school. There's a few of us, clearly, but for the most part, most physicians really, they're good people. They want to do the right thing, and they are incredible at through hoops, whether it's tests and academics and you name it. They will just keep going, and that. But that is the personality type that tends to be overwhelmingly found in physicians, and that has been used against us. We are passionate. I heard a lot of our colleagues call it the passion tax, because it will be by the administration, who knows you're not going to like your patient out on the steps. You'll just keep going. You will keep giving when you've got nothing left to give, and they know it. They know we'll do that.
Abuse that.
So they abuse that. So they know we're lemmings. They know that we are passionate about our patients. And so they use these things against us.
They weaponize it.
Yep.
But now it's time to be smart, right? Now it's time to have boundaries. Now it's time to be like, do better. I've heard of this film. I saw it on LinkedIn, actually, because I follow it. I'm going to check it out. Suck It Up, Buttercup film.
It'll be out in the fall.
My kind of title. No sugarcoating.
I'm still not on the title, but the title, it happened very organically. So the title from we are interviewing. I cannot name names, but I did meet a famous health insurance executive who is no longer with us in the making of this film. And I won't tell you what I thought of his personality before his demise, but Suck It Up Buttercup is the attitude that came out of that encounter.
And it's the most people can, we smile because we get it. It's a universal phrase.
Yeah. But then it came out of, so I don't know if you've met Linda Pino, but Linda Pino is like this demure physician. Is like, she's so quiet. She's like such a little introvert, but she is a badass. Like, she's my hero. So in the 90s, before he really understood that managed care was kind of the side, she went to the dark side, and she didn't realize what she was doing. And so she was working for, I think it was Humana. And for the most part, just in her office, shuffling papers, getting by, and then the heart transplant. And she approved it. And they get into her office. They're like, there's in the OR, there's a heart in the OR. This is happening. And they were like, you need to deny this. You cannot approve this. And she was like, what? And they were like, you will deny it. Deny now. She did. And the young man, he died of the sequelae. He didn't die that day, but he died of the sequelae. And the heart got wasted. And she got a raise and a promotion and a bonus, and a lot of other people got some bonuses. And then they figured that, I forget how much now, that probably saved them on the order of $5 million. And then a piece brought into the lobby a few days later that was worth $8 million. And her head just exploded. She's like, fuck this. She's out. She left. Yeah. And she's been testifying before Congress. She's been telling anybody who will listen ever since then. Yeah. And she is absolutely amazing. Yeah. And during this interview, so she's been fighting this fight for years. And we asked her, we're like, what do you say to your colleagues who are having trouble summoning the courage to do the right thing? And she looked right in the camera and she goes, suck it up, Buttercup.
I love it. Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. I think we just sealed the title.
Yeah, no.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but we get it.
Her dream is that we physicians will summon the courage. We need to take back this. Society gave us the power. They tell us their secrets. They show us their bodies. With that comes the prestige and the power and the trust. And then we sold that to businessmen who have no responsibility to this person. Now we have to get it back, learn from our mistakes, and never let this happen again.
Never. Exactly.
That's going to take some.
Oh, it takes some lady balls, take
It's going to
gonads,
take some gonads.
like
We need courage.
courage, see, not and strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Collective strategy. I love this. I think you're amazing. You're my
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, for real. I would chat more, but I gotta go see patients in the office soon. Oh my gosh. But
It's a noble profession. I still operate every night in my dreams.
You know what? If not for my torment and the moments where I wanted to quit, literally, because this medicine, you you give everything and it chews out even though your most vulnerable position. Like, nah. If not for those challenges, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing. If it hadn't pushed me to the ground where I'm like, okay, I either disappear myself, off myself, or I keep on fighting. And that sounds horrible, but that's really how the truth is. Majority of people have felt that way. It's not like, oh my God, you really said that. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did.
I did feel that because made to feel for doing the right thing in shitty situation. And
that tells me you're a good person and a good doctor, because if this conveyor belt bullshit is okay with you, what kind of doctor are you?
Exactly. I care, and my patients know it. Like they know it, and my kids know it too. And those who know me know it. And the haters are gonna hate. They're the people out there who don't have lived experience and live in their ivory tower. Or just they like denial. Doesn't make them feel uncomfortable because certain topics are just uncomfortable.
I make people uncomfortable.
I know. It makes them feel uncomfortable. They feel like
I've been told I'm edgy.
I'm sure you've been told you're a bitch, right?
Oh God. That's my nickname.
I know. It's like, I'm a bitch. I'm a lover.
Yeah. Thankfully, by the time you get into your mid-40s, I'm like,
I don't give a and you've done worse to me. You told me my life did not matter. So what's the whole name? What? And if I don't fight, it's gonna happen to my children. So and this collective world who are my family, because I believe we are one race, one planet.
I do too.
Humanity, and that your kids are my kids. If I see them in the streets and this happened to them, you don't think I'm going to have Mama Bear mode and come out and rescue them? I'm going to do what I need to do to be there for your kids, whether you're brown, black, green, maybe not orange, but definitely.
No. I'm going to even love the orange children.
All colors of the rainbow, right? So
because ultimately, love is the only way.
Exactly. I love it. It's for everyone's benefit. It's not like this goodness, this work we're doing is just going to benefit ourselves and our kids. It's for everyone. Social determinants, health, better outcomes, education, access, human rights are.
Yeah. And these aren't just like flimsy, fluffy ideas.
No.
This is work. It's going to work and it's going to be sustainable, because what we're doing right now is literally a train wreck. It is going to go off the rails, and this is where the strategy comes in. And so, just as our poorly quote unquote designed system was designed in the setting of war, sadly, I think we're headed into a pretty significant conflict in the U.S. And on the other side, there's going to be a rebuild and a redesign. And these ideas, which are the only truly sustainable way to build a healthcare system, are going to have to be at the center of it.
100%.
People have to be at the center, not the dollar.
Humanity. Oh, yeah. I grew up listening to Michael Jackson and many other things, but make the world a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. Like, as an impressionable child, I'm like, yeah, there are people dying. Let's care about make a better place for you and for me. Yeah. Real. So, that sponge mind of mine, like, yeah.
That's what you were taking in.
I was like,
good stuff.
Yeah. Sure, I heard we all live in the yellow submarine. I heard that too. But make the world a better for you and for me. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will be able to live in a country where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
That's craziness. Radical ideas.
Makes good trouble?
Good trouble based on love.
I don't see no one quoting Hitler. At least I don't think so. No, we don't.
Not openly.
No.
I do think that might be happening at dinner parties behind the scenes.
Girl, we gotta have another conversation.
I am afraid hard every day to make sure that I am not using fear-based thinking to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Faith-based thinking will be needed during
True faith, grounded on love, humanity.
True faith, yes.
Pure faith. None of this weaponized religion.
None of the weaponized religion.
Because I've seen that hypocrisy.
Humans.
I see that.
Yeah.
Keep those isms away from me. F off the isms.
Yeah. No. That's what's of human hierarchies is when we use people's religions against them.
Weaponize it. Last time I checked, all the religions had the base of faith and love. Anyway, we could have a masterclass on many of what we talked about. I would talk more, but unfortunately, my other hats call me. But we are going to get back on this conversation. To our listeners, thanks for being here. I hope you feel very warm and empowered, and your sensitivities were not triggered. We are living our best life and speaking our truth. And by no means any of this medical advice. We are just here sharing ideas. Definitely check us out. We're going to have some links for you to make your own informed decisions on what is right for you and humanity. Anyway, just kidding. You get my point. But listeners, thanks again. Dr. Wilbur, honestly, this conversation is not stopping. I'm going to connect with you later on in my day. But God bless you. I admire your courage.
Same.
You're my ride and die chick. Okay, for real.
We're going to summon some courage because it's going to be needed.
Yeah. Make some good trouble. Like, seriously, I'm not going back to 1960s, 1950s. Our brothers already died. Our sisters already died. They sacrificed themselves, right? Like, we're not, nah. We're going forward. We're not stopping. We're privileged, right? As educated women with gonads who aren't afraid to use them. Okay? All right, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Mitchell.
Bye, everyone.
Till next week. Faith, happiness, health, advocacy. Don't forget that. And eat real food. All right. Till next time. Bye.